What's going on, guys? And welcome back to another episode of the Drama Bear podcast. And today, I want to take a look at the current NFL edge rusher market and how the Chicago Bears could address that position moving forward before the 2023 season starts. The Chicago Bears finished a very successful 2023 NFL draft in my opinion and got tons of positions that they needed in that draft class. We addressed defensive line, offensive tackle, we got another wide receiver and really got depth in the DB position as well overall. So for me, that was a very successful draft. If you want to, feel free to check out my grading and recap of the draft and all the analyses of those players being picked. But one core position group that the Chicago Bears were not able to address through the draft was the edge position. And if we're looking at the current position for the Chicago Bears, I think we're pretty good depth-wise, but we're lacking really a top guy that can elevate the other guys, the other edge rushers, and give them opportunities to succeed as well in 2023. I love Dominique Robinson, great developmental prospect. Same for Travis Gibson. He's still a pass rusher that's developing. And then we got some two veteran backups / starting signings in the Marcus Walker and Rasheem Green as well that I absolutely love. So for me personally, it's a pretty deep position group, but at the top, it's pretty thin as well. So for me, the Chicago Bears could still seek, especially with the money that they still have left in free agency, and they still need to spend money as well. I think they could definitely seek an upgrade at the edge rusher position, and I think there's some veterans that would fit in quite well with the Chicago Bears defense. Give them some veteran presence for those young players to continue to develop, but also just being a leader and an anchor for that defense and just getting after the quarterback successfully. I think that's something we definitely need. And with that being said, I don't want to waste any more time and want to talk about 5 free agent edge rushers at the moment that I personally like with the market value and how they could fit into that defense. And with that being said, we want to start off with the first guy that I want to talk about today, which is an old face that lots of Bears fans will know in Leonard Floyd. And as I already mentioned, obviously Leonard Floyd is a well-known name in Chicago after being the first-round pick in 2016, the 9th overall pick for the Chicago Bears. And after the 4 years that he spent with the Bears, he had a massive increase of production when he joined the LA Rams for the last 3 years. And I mean, overall, I think he would be a great addition to this defense. Obviously, he knows the Chicago Bears already as an organization. And I think overall, he's getting older now. He's 30 years old, which I did not expect because Leonard Floyd for me was always a young player. But I mean, he will even turn 31 by the start of the season. But he's still a 6'5", 240-pound edge rusher that has so much talent on the board. When we look at the stats, what he did for the LA Rams, starting with 2020, he started off with 10.5 sacks. Then in 2021, 9.5 sacks, and in 2022, he had a total of 9 sacks for the entire season. That's a big plus for him. He is an edge rusher that now, especially after joining the Rams, knows how to get after the quarterback. Obviously, situation you can't compare it with Aaron Donald and also years before Samson Ebukam and other edge rushers that he had on the opposite side of him. So the talent level will drop a bit with the Chicago Bears defense, but nonetheless, I think Leonard Floyd offers so much as a speed rusher off the edge that is such a talented player. And after digging into his tape a bit more again for his Rams tape especially, I think he developed a lot as a run defender as well, which is just phenomenal to see. I mean, he's really good at setting the edge, just containing the edges and making correct reads in the gaps. And then when you look at him as a pass rusher, I mean, he has phenomenal get-off still, even though he's getting up there in age and becoming 31. But I think he would be a great veteran addition to young players that want to develop in Chicago, so he knows something about that. But also he can now take over that edge rusher number 1 role for the Chicago Bears, being the primary edge rusher and going after the quarterback. And I think it would be a tremendous addition to the Chicago Bears roster. Now, contract-wise, working with Spotrac here, they're projecting a $13.7 million average annual salary for him, which is not that little for a 30-year-old edge rusher, but I think if you sign him to a 2-year deal, in my opinion, which would be perfect. You get 2 years of very productive play of an edge rusher that's still very explosive, and you pay him $13 million per year. I think that's still somewhat of a steal, and it's definitely below the market average by this point. And I feel like overall Leonard Floyd could offer so much on a 1 or 2 year deal from a veteran standpoint, but also still as a rusher. So for me, it would be a perfect addition to the Chicago Bears defense. And I think I would just love that reunion with Leonard Floyd and the Chicago Bears. Was always one of my favorite players on the field, and it's just an absolute beast what he does. And with that being said, we want to move on to the second guy that I want to talk about today, which is Yannick Ngakoue, formerly known for the Indianapolis Colts. And it kind of surprises me that Yannick Ngakoue is still on the market. The 6'2", 246-pound edge rusher is still only 20 years old and hasn't signed a contract yet. Now, for the big con with Yannick Ngakoue, what you certainly get with Leonard Floyd is run defense specifically, because Yannick Ngakoue is not an elite run defender. He gets moved pretty easily, but what he does so well is just getting after the quarterback. And I think what the Bears desperately need is an effective pass rusher that will get after the quarterback. And for me, Yannick Ngakoue perfectly fits that mold for the Chicago Bears moving forward. Like I said, probably, or he is, in fact, the youngest player on the list today at 20 years old, just turned 28, so you have some upside and could potentially even sign him to a 4-year deal. You never know, but the guy simply just doesn't stick on a team, and I think it's finally to give him another home in Chicago. He's such a productive rusher wherever he goes. He never was under 8 sacks in an NFL season, and he was in so many different teams and systems. I mean, we're talking about 12 sack seasons, 10 sack seasons, 9.5 sack seasons. It's just such a productive beast off the edge. And when you look at him on tape too, I mean, his explosiveness off the snap, off the ball is phenomenal, and he will be an effective pass rusher wherever he goes. And I think that's a ability that you can't leave on the board and can't leave in free agency. And I think the Chicago Bears should definitely consider at least signing him to a deal. Now, for his contract, he's even a bit more worth. According to Spotrac, $14.8 million is his projected and average annual salary, and they project a contract of 4 years and $60 million. So for me, that would be a fair deal even. I don't know if I want to sign him for that long of a deal, because obviously run defense is still important and he's not the best at it, but I would definitely consider a 2 to 3 year deal with him, getting locked up for a couple of years, getting him a home, and just let him rush after the passer on third downs. And I think that will be a very effective role that will be appreciated by Bears fans and the Bears coaching staff as well. And Yannick Ngakoue would be a phenomenal addition to the Chicago Bears edge rushing group. And with that, we want to move on to the third guy that I want to talk about today, which is a former Super Bowl champion in Frank Clark, formerly known for the Kansas City Chiefs. And the two-time Super Bowl champion Frank Clark is definitely one of the more attractive edge rushers still available on the free agent market. He's a 6'3", 261-pound rusher that is still only 29 years old, will turn 30 though in June, but he still has some good years, I think, in my opinion, left in his tank. Now, when we look at his production, he's definitely a player that has regressed over the years, and he's definitely more known for his playoff just performances, because he had literally 2.5 sacks in this year's playoffs, which is half of the sacks that he had for the entire season, with 5 in 2022. So he always blossoms in the playoffs. In the regular season, he kind of goes unnoticed, and I don't know why that is, but I think still he would be a great veteran addition, a good veteran addition to the Chicago Bears rotation. Not my favorite one, but a player that will add tons of value. When we look at his stats for the last couple of years, in 2020 he had 6 sacks, 2021 4.5 sacks, and in 2022, 5 sacks overall for his regular season performances. And before that, when he was with the Seahawks, he actually had seasons of 13 sacks, 9 sacks, and 10 sacks. So maybe somewhat of a different system could benefit him as well. I think Matt Eberflus's system definitely benefits edge rushers in somewhat way. So I could see an increase of his statistics definitely in Chicago here for Frank Clark. But overall, he's still a phenomenal edge rusher that you can bring from different positions of the defensive line. You can line him up as a wide 9, as a 6 technique, but also at times you saw him as a 3 technique, even lined up on special rushing downs where he just demolished offensive guards with his bull rush. So I think he would definitely be a great addition that's still left on the market potentially. As for his salary, he's still a bit on the cheaper side now. He's projected with a $12.4 million deal, which is, I think, the cheapest that I've mentioned today. And I think for an average annual salary for an experienced rusher like Frank Clark, I think that's definitely a fair deal at this this point. Now, they project a 2-year, $24 million deal, and that's what I also would say. Just a 1-year deal, basically, that you can increase to a 2-year deal if he plays well, and just give him a bunch of incentives as well. But I think overall, I don't want to spend too much money on Frank Clark. I think he wants a lot of money. That's why he left the Chiefs. So I don't know how much the Bears want to invest in him, and if he even wants to join the Chicago Bears. But I mean, he's a 2-time Super Bowl champ, so maybe he wants to go to a smaller team that gives him a bit more money than others, which the Chicago Bears could do on a 1 or 2 year deal. I wouldn't see a problem with that, and just other players could develop under him. But Frank Clark, definitely another really good addition that the Bears could possibly make in free agency as well. And with that being said, we want to move on to the fourth guy that we want to talk about today, which is JADEVEON CLOWNEY, formerly known for the Cleveland Browns. And the former first overall pick in the 2014 NFL Draft is now 30 years old, just turned that in February, and is still a 6'5", 255-pound monster of the edge. Now, JADEVEON CLOWNEY as a player might not be the perfect addition if you want pure pass rush ability. He definitely is not that type of a guy. He always has up and down years. When we look at the 2022 season, he had only 2 sacks in production in 12 games played. 2021, he played in 14 games, though, and had 9 sacks. So it's always up and down with his production overall. But what is definitely undeniably a big reason why JADEVEON CLOWNEY would still be a great addition to the Chicago Bears defense is simply his run defense. I think he has incredible gap sound play on defense. He can demolish blocks and sheds blocks so easily with beautiful swim move and everything, and just the way he beats blockers so fast and gets into the backfield is absolutely phenomenal. And I think that's the biggest reason why you would add a guy like JADEVEON CLOWNEY. But like I said, he always also has some up and down years where he produces well as an edge rusher, and I think overall he's become kind of underrated by the league because everybody's saying he's overrated. So at some point you're getting underrated because everybody undervalues you at some point. And I think he's definitely a player that has still some upside, is talented, still physically talented. I don't see a lot of regression in his game when you look at his first step still in his last season now in 2022 with Cleveland. He still looked fresh off the edge, and I think with just increased playing time, hopefully a full season, because he wasn't able to finish his season since 2017. He always never finished a season since, like I said, 2017, where he played 16 games and started all 16 of those. But before that, always some injuries were bugging him or some other problems. But I think JADEVEON CLOWNEY can still be a problem for opposing offenses, and I think he would still be a great addition as a veteran presence for the Chicago Bears edge rusher position. And who knows how he performs as an edge rusher, but like I said, as a run defender, he will be an immediate upgrade right away, and I wouldn't let that slide either. As for his contract projection, I don't have a true projection by SpotRack, but just going off of his last couple of contracts, his previous contracts, in 2021, he signed a 1-year, $8 million deal with the Cleveland Browns, and before that, it was a 1-year, $13 million deal. And with the lower production that he got in only getting 2 sacks in 2022, I think that contract value will even decrease a bit more. So for me personally, it could be an easy option that JADEVEON CLOWNEY could sign somewhat of a 1-year deal surrounding $2 to $6 million. It kind of sounds crazy, but I think in between that range, we have to somewhat get him under a contract. $2 to $6 million seems low for him because he's just a big name player, obviously former first overall pick, but I think it would be an amazing value deal for the Chicago Bears to get him in here, help the run defense, get a little bit better pass rush with him as well, and get him for cheap money too on a prove-it deal, which I think is never a bad idea for the Chicago Bears, and he would definitely help the 2023 Chicago Bears edge rusher rotation to improve immediately. And with that being said, we want to move on to the last guy that I want to talk about today, which is the oldest one on the list today, and Marcus Golden, formerly known for the Arizona Cardinals. And Marcus Golden is a 32 years old edge rusher at 6'3", 260 pounds, and I think always was somewhat of an underrated rusher in the entire league. We're talking about seasons in 2016 where he had 12.5 sacks, 2019 had 10 sacks for the New York Giants where he was there for one season, And then also in 2021, just 2 seasons ago, had 11 sacks for the Cardinals once again. So for me, somewhat of a Robert Quinn type of a player that has some up and down seasons, is very inconsistent with those seasons, but overall would be a good, cheap veteran option for the Chicago Bears to improve that edge rusher rotation quickly and immediately. And I mean, overall for his contract, what I see in him, it's basically last year he signed a 1-year $6.5 million contract with the Arizona Cardinals to stay with the team for one more season. And when we look at the production in 2022, he had 17 games, 14 started of those, and only had 2.5 sacks, 48 tackles, 7 TFLs, and 20 quarterback hits, which is still a pretty good statistic though. But I mean, overall, he's a player, like I said, that has some pass rush upside in the fact that he could always have a 10 plus sack season, which could always help. And he's also an experienced rusher that has done it before. 3 times he went over double-digit sacks, which is amazing. And I think overall Marcus Golden is one of the more underrated options that the free agent market for edge rushers offers at the moment. But I think also at 2.5 sacks in 2022, I think he can expect another deal of $6.5 million for 1 year. So I'm once again saying somewhat like JADEVEON Clowney, it may be that $3 to $6 million range that he could potentially get for that 1 year with the Chicago Bears. And I think that's all they need for him, because then after that season, hopefully players will have developed even a bit more. Dominique Robinson, Travis Gibson. In 2024, you have another draft coming up with tons of edge talent, how you could improve that roster as well. And I think 2024 free agencies should also have some other really good options for the Chicago Bears on the table as well. So Marcus Golden, more of a more underrated and older option at the free agent market, but he would be a player that could help the Chicago Bears in many ways right away as well. And with that being said, that's the end of the episode, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. Definitely let me know in the comments down below what you think of those 5 pass rushers that are still left on the free agent market, and definitely let me know in the comments down below of other players that you would like to see on the Chicago Bears edge rotation. Like and subscribe if you like the video. Check out Instagram and Twitter if you want to as well. And as always, guys, bear down.